Join Gator great Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It is a Monday. Hope everybody had a great weekend. We'll have JC, we'll have Loren Meadows from Gator Bait Media. We'll talk a little football. We'll talk about this Mike Holloway classic they had here with a lot of guys and girls going to the Olympics, kind of a tune-up for them. If you missed it, Vernell Brown III, one of the top recruits in America, committed to Billy Napier and the Gators this weekend. And then also a belated happy birthday to Coach Napier. He turned 45 yesterday, I believe. So
doing pretty well. Doing pretty well for the grand old age of 45.
Yeah. Got a lot of things to talk about today.
All right.
We have JC, as I mentioned, he's on the Titan MR hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Speaking of the Peachland Dental golf picks. Somebody on this podcast has gone back to back with the winners the last 2 weeks. Maybe I should just pick the DP World Tour players over. I'm very good on the links courses over there, picking winners, JC. But I did have Xander, the X-Man. What a round of golf that Joker played. Good gracious. Billy Horschel was so close, and we love Billy, but Xander was lights out.
Xander Schauffele, I mean, he watching that tournament the whole weekend, he was just kind of lurking in the shadows, QB. The cameras were on him, but they were also mostly on some of the other guys who were setting the pace. Rose and, gosh, Billy Horschel so well. It played so well. He loves playing in that weather. His short game was just unbelievable Saturday, even though he bogeyed 18 on Saturday. But he played so well. I was really rooting for him. You know, Xander Schauffele has done something that only I think Jack Nicklaus has done. And Xander Schauffele did it in a much shorter time frame, and that is to shoot a 65 in the final round to win a major. He did it with the PGA tournament this year at Valhalla, and now he's done it at Royal Troon, a 65 on the final day. And Jack did it, but Jack did it in 85 and then something like 10 or 20 years before that to win a major. So Schauffele now, you can make the case, even though Scotty Scheffler has more wins, you can make the case that Schauffele with the two majors and the two final round 65s could be what I call the golfer of the year, so to speak. That is unbelievable for a guy that basically changed his coaching to a guy named Chris Como from his father, and now he's won two majors. And even though his father was in attendance at Troon yesterday, this comes now his second tournament, his second major within months. And his new coach and him have done great things with his game, and he is now locked in as a solid major champion, winning two championships in a year, in a summertime basically, and shooting 65 in the final round. The guy is now cemented as a clutch, big time champion. You know, Scheffler, for all we've said about him, and it's been great, but he's only won the Masters. He has not won another major. He's just won the Masters as his two majors. So I'll be curious to see what his next major
he would have won this tournament if he could have made some putts. He putted terrible.
True. Very true.
We got a couple of Facebook Live brought to you by Metal Law comments and questions. Andy says Billy won $1.44 million at the Open. Have I ever played with Billy around the golf? Yeah, I have played with Billy. Billy, I've always meant to ask this, and I probably should know the backstory to it. Billy's into that damn European soccer league over there, the West Ham, whatever they are. You know, his whole bag is West Ham. JC, you know what I'm talking about? The Premier Soccer League?
Okay.
He's huge into that. He's like named. I think his kids are named after players from over there. His whole bag when he plays over in Europe is the colors and it has the team that soccer team's logos. But I'm not sure why he even gives a crap about that, but he does. Tony says the big news of the day was Nick Dunlap winning the Barracuda. Does
Wow.
JC know where he played his college golf?
Yes, I think I do now. You've
Where?
reminded me that he's a Bama guy. Isn't he the amateur that won a tournament and they gave the prize money to the second place finisher, but he got a 2-year, a status and all the things that come with winning? Isn't that him, Nick Dunlap?
I think so. I don't know. Maybe Tony will let us know. I can't remember.
I think it is.
But it was phenomenal. What's crazy about Xander's story, he was not very good in college at all. He was horrible. He was not a very good player. And has worked his way up. We got a text here on the Titan MR text line.
Amazing.
This is from Larry. He says, I'd like to get your guys' thoughts on the Olympic basketball teams. The men's team has to come from behind to beat South Sudan, and the women's team loses to the WNBA All-Stars.
Honestly,
okay, I'm going to answer first. It does not matter. South Sudan, I didn't even know that was a country.
Yes, the Civil War has split that country in half. Yes, they barely are able to eat in that country, and one player's salary on the Team USA probably is the size of the entire country's GDP. The fact that they beat South Sudan by 1 point shows how much they really care about being there, in my opinion. And why would they? And then they've got the decision that LeBron James is going to walk in with the flag during I don't know. I mean, that's great. I suppose.
Who else would you want to carry the flag?
I would have somebody that we haven't heard of. Somebody who's been tremendous in tennis or swimming or one of those other sports that are known for the Olympics. I don't need a guy worth $500 million walking the flag into the Olympics. I'm not sure that, LeBron James has really deserved anything that would allow me to say, yeah, he is the model of amateurism as it used to be in the Olympics. It's no longer that way. And I don't mind the pros playing in the Olympics, to tell you the truth. But I'd rather see some kid who won the NCAA tennis tournament, or just another, as an example, just some other guy that we don't know who he is and has a great story as well. I think everybody knows who LeBron James is, and him being at the Olympics. I mean, do I need to watch them play teams like South Sudan? And do I need to watch them play Morocco? And no, I actually don't need to watch that. But that's what they've decided. That's what they'll have, and that's great. But all I'm thinking about is August 31st, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, well, the women's national team got beat by the WNBA All-Stars, which is interesting because everybody playing in that game on both teams plays in the WNBA, and there's a lot of talk among Twitter about how a lot of whoever chose that national team left off some really good players. A couple of those players freaking dominated the game. But I saw Diana Taurasi, who's a phenomenal player. How old do you think Diana Taurasi is, JC?
How old?
Mm-hmm.
40-1. I have no.
She's 42 years old. Which that is old playing basketball.
That is old, no question about it.
Well, regardless, here's the thing: the women's team is going to run through the Olympics. I don't know if there's anybody that can match, because the All-Star team that they played is probably the second best team they'll play as well. But I just thought that was interesting to bring up.
I don't need an NBA player who doesn't stand for the national anthem because of some.
Well, I agree with that.
All this crap that we had to listen to from these loudmouths that make so much money and have everything that life could ever want, and albeit deservedly so. But I don't need to see that as part of my Olympic experience. In fact, I'm probably not even going to watch it, QB. I mean, I don't want to sound cynical or disingenuous here, but honest to God, I could not care less. Actually, was rooting. Now, I'm going to say this, and I hope people don't want to, throw me over the rail here on the porch, but I would have kind of laughed if South Sudan had won. Honest to God,
it was an exhition, so it doesn't.
I don't care.
They're not in the Olympics.
They're on the court.
But do you know they lost by one, and they had a putback to win it, and he missed.
Honest to God, it wouldn't have bothered me to see them win. It would have made me laugh. Honestly.
This is from Jimmy on the Titan MR text line. He says, JC, did you see that Nick Saban is 250 to 1 odds to be Kamala Harris's VP nominee. I didn't know he was a Democrat.
I don't know anything about it. Sorry. I can't. Okay, comment. But I can't tell you, the last 2 weekends, we've had an assassination attempt and the incumbent quit. Now, tell me, if this were a political show, we would have been on the air last night and still on the air probably.
Thank God it's not, because I would have had somebody fill in for me.
Well, you wouldn't ever do a political podcast, so I don't have to worry about that.
Dan says the spread on that South Sudan basketball game. Take a guess what you think the point spread was, JC.
40.
41.5.
Again, I mean, if there's just the idea that these guys playing from a war-torn country where they probably don't get 3 squares a day and there's no Publix on the corner are playing.
There's a few NBA guys on their team.
Great. Anyway, I just think it's funny as hell. And I don't need the NBA representing. I don't know. I'm just the whole thing about the NBA and their protesting and their bullshit with Mark Cuban and people like that, I wouldn't call them most patriotic people on earth. Carrying the flag into the stadium in Paris is really all I need to basically watch it.
Maybe they should let like Simone Biles or Katie Ledecky. Katie Ledecky should probably tote the flag.
Yes. Now we're talking about somebody that I could get behind to carry in the flag. I don't need LeBron James carrying in the damn flag.
All right, Russell on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, and we'll have Loren Meadows. We're going to talk some Olympic track athletes. He knows about the Mike Holloway Classic that they had here over the weekend, where a ton of the Gator Olympic athletes and other athletes it was a tune-up race for them. And we're going to talk a lot about Vernell Brown Jr. as well, or the third. Russell says, Shane, good morning. I am in my early 50s and playing the EA game to better understand the whole playbook and players. Got to admit, I am enjoying it. Plus, we are not stuck with Muschamp offense anymore. All right. Because we had a text here on the Titan our text line from Jesse saying, y'all should seriously look into playing the new NCAA football video game. I have no desire.
Again, we're just in a different era here, QB. You and I, these are not the things we focus on. I do not think about, nor do I feel like engaging in video games while I could be doing 10,000 other things. It's just not my thing. Now, I mean, I'm sure it's great. Get after it. Let the 20-year-olds have at it, but I'm not on board. That's just, I'm old man JC over here.
Speaking of that, 31 Ember. 31 Ember says, JC with the typical boomer take, quote, LeBron isn't a Patriot. Stay off Facebook, Grandpa.
Well, let me ask you something, 31 Ember. How many times did you hear LeBron talk about Chinese human rights violations while he was getting paid his $1 billion from the Chinese Communist Party? You talk to me about that. You want to have a real discussion. You want to have some sort of intellectual discussion about it or a real discussion about it. That's fine. You want to talk about patriotism and grandpas. That's fine for you too, but I don't really care. I just know what I know, and I don't think this guy's, in my opinion, the guy should be carrying the flag in. Okay, so that's my position on it. If you disagree, I don't have a problem with that either. But I'm not. I really don't care for LeBron carrying the flag in. I'd rather see a golf. Give me a golf.
Chris says Biden hitting the portal finally gives him time to play NCAA. All right, Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it, we stand by. We got JC here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Town. Tomorrow's program, we're going to have Ron Coleman. You got any idea who Ron Coleman is? Former Gator, JC?
He's a defense guy, big defense guy.
Who?
That's the other Ron? Who's the other Ron? Who's the defense guy that we have?
The defense guy? You mean like a defensive coach?
Yeah.
That'd be Ron Roberts.
Rob
Roberts. So Ron Coleman is the first ever black athlete to attend the University of Florida in 1968.
Yeah, I thought of
track athlete.
Okay, again, QB, you're asking me about track athletes.
Well, I mean, I thought you're a historian of Gator athletics.
Well, I can tell you, Willie Jackson's taught me in the 6th grade at Fort Clark. We were then called the Patriots. They changed that to the Falcons or whatever the hell they want to be. But we were the Patriots, and Willie Jackson was my teacher in the 6th grade, so I did know that.
Okay.
You know who Willie Jackson is? Yeah, of course you do.
Yeah,
So,
Willie Jackson
I mean,
Sr. and
right.
Leonard George were the first 2 black football
Gators.
players at the university.
That's
Ron
what I
Coleman
know.
was the first black athlete on campus.
Well,
so
if
we're
he
going to
had
talk to
taught
him
me
tomorrow.
if he had taught me in the 6th grade, I obviously would have known that too.
All right. Justin says most Americans agree with JC, and you can bet most Americans would be happy to see the U.S. basketball team lose.
I just don't need it. I don't need their anti-American stance on things. And then when he was asked to talk about China and the human rights violations while he was cashing their checks, he wouldn't say a word. Same with that clown Popovich from San Antonio. He's the most angry person on earth. And we got to talk about these people, and the NBA is not even in season. And we got to talk about it because they're marching in Paris. Give me something else. I'm looking more forward to what's going to happen on August 31st here in Gainesville and what's going to happen this fall with college football. I noticed, too, on a much more important subject, that the ACC and Florida State and Clemson have this big war going on. I'm going to bring this up. And what is happening in February of 2025 next year is the ESPN network of sports, who pays for all of this in the ACC and the SEC and so forth, they have what is called a look-in for their contract to last until 2036 on the TV deal. If they were to say and look in and say, we're not going to continue this until 2036, the ACC by this time next year will not exist, QB. If they decide to say, yes, we're going to continue this contract to 2036, and then they go to court and the ACC goes to court with Florida State and Clemson, FSU and Clemson aren't going nowhere anytime soon. Now, the only place Florida State and Clemson can go, it would now appear, is the Big 12, because the SEC and Big 10 have basically said, we're fine where we are. Big 10 with 18 teams, why they call themselves the Big 10 is unknown, and the SEC with 16 teams. They are not cutting in Florida State and Clemson. And ESPN is not going to pay more money for Florida State and Clemson to go anywhere when they are paying them what they are right now in the ACC with that current low ball deal. So Florida State and Clemson, and all this talk that you see on these podcasts and online about Florida State moving anywhere anytime soon, you may as well just hit the mute button, because it's not going to happen unless ESPN in 2025 decides not to continue their TV deal with the ACC for another 10 years. And that does matter because we have a lot of interest in Florida State. We play them every year. There are fans all over the place in North Central Florida that follow the Seminoles, but they're stuck in the ACC unless the ESPN network decides to shut down that deal. And if that happens, the ACC will go poof into thin air. You watch it happen.
And they're going to have to go to the Big 12 because the Big 10 and the SEC will not take them.
Mm-hmm. That's the current stance. And,
yes,
the Big 12, listen, Florida State and Clemson could end up with some great financial gig in the Big 12 if they sell part of their league to private equity. They'll make more money without having to play an SEC or Big 10 schedule. And that's what I think secretly they're hoping for. But they'll be tied up in court with the ACC unless ESPN pulls the cord. And then Fox will determine whatever the Big 10 wants. They will tell the Big 10 what to do. So it could be the Big 10 for FSU and Clemson, but it will certainly be most likely the Big 12 if they sell part of their conference to private equity. But unless that happens, and unless ESPN backs out in 2025, they're stuck in the ACC. Sorry.
Chris from Mike on the Titan our text line says, "Who has time for video games? Do people not have do not have lives in the real world? Do not live in the real world, I guess." Okay,
well,
I agree. Low Bottom Sports on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Point.
Yeah.
So, did you guys see that Napier landed another legacy yesterday? Yeah. Vernell Brown III. We talked about that, Low Bottom. You must be just now tuning in.
Yep. Low Bottoms.
I'm surprised, though, that we're not getting more text and comments regarding that. We just got one of the best players in America, and nobody, if we had not gotten him, we would have 18,000 comments right now bashing.
Well, the 2020, right. Well, the 2025 class, the current 2025 class, and you can talk to Graham Hall about this, but it's ranked very low right now.
Well, it is because they've only signed like 2 or 3, and it does not matter, because all that matters is whatever signing day is, that's what's going to determine. Because I can tell you right now, look, let's be honest. It's great that Vernell Brown III has verbally committed to the Gators. there's no guarantee that he signs on signing day.
Very good point. All
Yes.
true. These are all verbal commitments, and they do. I mean, they are as solid as the paper on the table. It's you just don't know until the signature's on there. You're absolutely right about that. But we'll see how it turns out. I have confidence that the ranking will improve as the season goes. And what is the biggest?
Probably, I would say the ranking will be top 10 when it's all said and done.
Well,
like
what
they
is
were last year.
The biggest, most important thing to get this ranking and to get these players is what, QB?
Well, if you win games, the kids are going to come.
That's it. That's all it is. So that's the whole formula for the success that the Gator fans are dying for around here, and that's got to start on August 31st. By the way, go ahead.
Hang real quick. Bingo, QB. Negativity always louder than the positivity on the message boards and recruiting sites.
We started off with Vernell Brown III signing with Florida. I remember his dad playing. I mean, and he had a brother by the name of John L. Brown who played at GHS and was the first Brown, I think, that I can recall that was successful at football, winning. I think they won a state title with GHS in that year. But QB, I saw on Saturday night, former Gator and Rookie of the Year hopeful Wyatt Langford in Texas, and he hit just a rocket to left center field in the 8th inning, scored 2 runs, 2 RBIs. It was a double, and 2 runs scored. The Rangers lost that night 7-4. Had a great time. Daughter Courtney was just tremendous with the hospitality. We got down there, and Courtney got us into the club. We ate like kings. We sat down there. They bring you drinks. They literally bring you water. They bring you beer. They bring you wine. They have these bags, these big white bags. It looked like you went shopping at Macy's, and you could order 1 hot dog, and they bring you this big bag. And they're down at the bottom of the bag is a hot dog. It was a great experience. The Rangers are top class, but the Orioles are for real. I saw the Orioles play. They got a good lineup. They are leading in the American League East. And if you love the Baltimore Orioles, this could be a good year for you.
Did the Rangers wear their baby blue uniforms?
They did that yesterday on Sunday. Saturday night, they had the all whites. They looked sweet. The all whites with the white blue hat and cap like this. It was a good experience. Globe Life, I'm telling you, QB, the more I'm thinking about it, these indoor facilities for baseball during the summer are a must. I mean,
did they not have was the roof not open at all?
They don't open that roof. That roof stays shut in Texas.
Well, JC, that's not true. I was there last year.
And they had
opening day. I went for opening day of the Texas Rangers.
Okay.
And the roof was open.
Okay, well,
and it started to drizzle, and it took about almost 2 innings for the damn roof to close.
Okay, well, I stand corrected there. I thought I asked a lady sitting next to me. I said, "Does that thing open up there?" She goes, "No, we don't want it to open. It's very hot out." Maybe she misunderstood what I was asking her, but you're probably right. But it's just amazing how comfortable it was. And when you consider how hot it is in Dallas at this time of year, same thing with Phoenix and the Diamondbacks. They have to play indoors. Tampa Bay is going to do it. But they're not going to have a retractable roof in Tampa Bay, which is too bad. But it's amazing. It's amazing how comfortable it is watching baseball. And then I look at those poor people in Atlanta yesterday watching the Braves play, and they're doing this. They're fanning themselves why am I here? And that's miserable. That is miserable, especially for us older folks, QB, like you and me. So, of course, it wouldn't matter. You probably wouldn't be at the game anyway, but I'm telling you, it is so comfortable and so pleasure. It's just a pleasure to watch the game. Well, Wrigley Field, Chicago is one thing, but watching games in the South during the summer, you can have it. No thanks. And it's hot in St. Louis too. I get that, but
very hot.
Yeah, but in places like Detroit, Chicago, maybe even up in New York and so forth, it's okay outdoors. But boy, down here, you've got to have a roof. And Las Vegas, the Oakland A's are going to become the Vegas A's in 3 years, and they're going to have this roof stadium, which they have to have. I mean, you just have to have it. Now out in California, Dodger Stadium, where the Angels play, where the Padres play, you don't need a roof. Where the Giants play, okay, But in these other places in the South and in Texas and Arizona, it is that you can't do it without a roof.
Okay, Andy tells us on Facebook Live that Horschel's love for West Ham started when he was at UF. He watched the British film called Green Street about a group of diehard West Ham fans. I mean, he is a diehard. So,
Okay.
all right, thanks for that, Andy, because I had no idea.
Okay.
So
I wish you could have won that British Open.
Yeah, it would have been great. Justin says, look at all the players that flipped last December across the country. You'd have to be foolish to get caught up in summer recruiting. Agreed. Agree with that. All right, JC, let's get to
All right.
Alan says, when the A's move to Vegas, can they change their name to Aces? Well, they already have the Las Vegas Aces. That's their women's basketball team. This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit Union. 2012 British Open at Royal Lytham and St. Anne's. South African Ernie Els, the Big Easy, wins his second claret jug, one stroke ahead of runner-up Adam Scott of Australia. That's This Day in Sports, brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union.
Adam Scott played well.
Played real well for 42.
First time in 42. First time in 22 years. I think we've had we've had all Americans win the majors in 1 year, and 3 did it this year, with one of them winning 2. So good job for the American golfers who don't win the Ryder Cup.
How about Dan's nickname or name for the new Las Vegas baseball team? The Las Vegas Craps.
Craps. Let's go Craps. Let's go Craps. The Dice. Call them the Dice. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be, the A's were part of, baseball for me growing up. In the 70s, they won 3 in a row in Oakland, Charlie Finley, all the great Oakland teams, Reggie Jackson. Then you had Billy Ball. A movie was made about him. But they have been a floundering organization in the worst ballpark in the league. And the owner just decided he's had enough. So he's out.
Kevin says on the Titan MR text line, JC is going to get you guys banned on YouTube talking about China. I did laugh for a solid minute, though.
Well, I'm not a big fan about China, folks. Sorry. You want to love on China? Go for it. Go visit the Great Wall. They're communists. Okay. Take it for what it's worth.
We got a lot of people chiming in here about JC today on the Titan MR text line. Daryl says, Shane, I have an idea. You know how JC gets so mad about the lawnmowers at his golf course? How about JC gets his own lawn service and calls it Corn Dogs Cuts?
I got a great guy named Edwin Roblero, and he is there every Thursday. If you want his number, folks, let me know. This guy is taking referrals. He comes every week. He's doing it for the same price as the deadbeat that never showed up that I had last year and the year before. And Edwin will always be my lawn service guy as long as he wants to do it. And Edwin should advertise on the show. I'm going to ask him to do that. And Edwin is unbelievably good and efficient and has people working their asses off. And then they leave and they come back the next day or the next week. He's got 4 houses on my street. I've referred him to my neighbor who sold a house. It's just tremendous. I just love Edwin. I will give you his number, folks, if you want it, for the best lawn service.
Well, they have to be local, JC. Majority of our listeners don't
Edwin
live here.
is. Well, for those who are local watching our show and you want a lawn service, Edwin is your guy. Just hit me up on here and I'll get the number to you. I just got to tell you, he's been so consistent, so good. And I'm going to get him to advertise on this here show.
There you go. All right, before we let you go, Ryan on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, Shane, have you ever considered playing the Tournament of Champions in Lake Tahoe? I think you're talking about the American Century, the one where the celebrities play. I've never been invited. You got to be invited to that. They used to have what I call, and I won a tournament on the Celebrity Players Tour back in 1996. I won it because Coach Spurrier got me on it. I won the Chicago event. And it's a good old boy network. If you're a good player and you're taking money out of those retired guys' pockets, they will not invite you back. Because there's some bad golfers that play in that thing in Tahoe.
Bad golfers.
I would contend there for sure. All right, JC.
Yeah, man.
Make sure you go put $100 on Nick Saban on your little.
Oh my God!
Who's
By
your
the way,
Hard Rock app?
Yeah, on my Hard Rock app, I had $10 on Sam Burns. Would have won me $1,000. He was one stroke out, Sam Burns, and shot 80.
If you would have listened,
80
if you would have
on
listened
Sunday
on the Peachland Dental podcast picks,
I was on it.
did you take Xavier
Xander?
I mean, Xavier.
Yeah,
Xander,
yeah.
I said.
I had Xander top 5.
Just think what I would have won you with
man.
Bobby Mack last week and Xander this week.
I tell you, it's all about opportunity, folks. If you want golf opportunities, this is your show. This is your show, QB. I mean, I think you've picked a few more winners than I have this year, but we've both picked winners. And that is not an easy thing to do in golf. Even though, it's easy to take Scheffler this or Scheffler that, he still has to win the tournament. And we do a good job. We're going to pat ourselves right now on the back.
Yeah. All right, JC, pat yourself on your back. Have a great day. That's JC. Join us on the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Come back. We'll be joined by Loren Meadows from Gator Media. Talk a little Olympic sports and Gator football. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
We want to take this moment to thank all our sponsors who keep the show going and pay the bills. Our premium sponsors are Crime Prevention Security Systems, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, Peachland Dental, QC Kinetics, Campus USA Credit Union, Dave & Buster's. Our gridiron sponsors, Sutter Pro Painters, Comfort Temp, UF Bookstores, Quality Plumbing, Silverback Concrete, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, F45. Our touchdown sponsors are Gator Dominoes, Celebrate Primary Care, Gator Bait Media, Okido America, Style Cuts, Ironwood Golf Course, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, McDonald's of Gainesville, 84 Lumber, Dowling Signs, Baker's Sporting Goods, MG&A Wealth, Nest and Wild. Again, thank you for all the great businesses that support the show. Please remember, if you like what we are doing here, thank our sponsors and support the businesses that support us.
All right, team. Spurrier's Gridiron Grill gift cards. 20% off. On one. Ready. Break.
Score big with the Foodie Fans during our Christmas in July special for a limited time.
Just until the end of July.
Use code GC20 to get 20% off any gift cards for Spurrier's. Good for food, drinks, and merchandise. Stop by Spurrier's in Celebration Point or go to Spurriers.com and send an e-card with a few quick clicks. Use code GC20 and get 20% off. A Spurrier's gift card will have any Gator fan cheering like it's 1996. Go to Spurriers.com right now and get your gift card today.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. Large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Ruse Ogre State Farm offers a team of dedicated insurance professionals ready to help life go right with the right insurance options for you and your family. Visit ogreinsurance.com. Give them a call at 352-240-1779. We're going to go back to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp, joined by Loren Meadows from Gator Media. Good morning, Loren. How you doing, my man?
How you doing, Shane? Getting a little hot and heavy this morning.
Yeah. That's how we roll on this show usually. Hey, before we jump into Gator football, obviously, actually, let's do that first. Vernell Brown III. Obviously, we know his dad, the granddad, everybody that played here. He started his career here in the Gainesville area. Then he went and played a year, I think, at Wildwood, or a year or two at Wildwood High School, because I think Vernell's brother was coaching there. And now he plays for Eli Williams down at Orlando Jones, I believe. Mm-hmm. Eli Williams, the former player, was phenomenal for the Gators, played DB and running back. Just a phenomenal athlete. He's about 5'10". He's a lot bigger than his dad. His dad's about 5'6", 5'7". What can you tell us about him? Are you surprised at all that he committed to the Gators?
No, I'm actually, it's kind of status quo, which is a good thing. I mean, Shane, as you know, I'm from Ohio and kind of follow the Ohio State Buckeyes kind of from afar. I have a couple of friends on the staff there. And the one thing I can speak to him is kid must be pretty good because the Buckeyes wanted him, and you talk about a guy like Brian Hartline, who the stable of receivers that he has, the fact that, they thought that he could come in and possibly help them is a good thing for the Gators. Because not only are they getting a legacy, but they're getting a pretty good player, So from what I understand, he can be murderous in the slot, very good after the catch, can make contested catches, secure the football in space and things like that. But, you look at these legacies, and Florida has not always had a great success with these legacies. It's something that, I think Billy Napier's kind of put his sights on in recruiting, and it's a good thing because I can tell you, if you look at a kid from Ohio State whose parents played or went to Ohio State, dad played at Ohio State, they're going to Ohio State. And I think we need to get back to that here at the University of Florida. And I think this is a good step in the right direction with getting Vernell Brown. So, he kind of will follow in his footsteps, kind of like a Trey Wilson III, be able to move around, handle some different things. And I think putting those two kind of a couple of years apart from one another put Florida in the right space offensively.
Buck's question for you on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law. Do you think an improvement from the secondary or the D-line is going to be more critical in our success this season?
Both. Both are must. I mean, they got to get pressure up the middle. I mean, everybody's talked about our edge rushers, and Shane, it's not just as simple as getting around the corner and getting a sack. There's a lot more to it. And if you don't get that push up front, I mean, you got to have that push in those A and B gaps. I mean, those guys have to kind of collapse that pocket. But on the back end, we just have to get more connected. I think the last 3 years in the secondary, and Shane, you used to feast on guys that weren't connected on a string. And, those safeties and corners, they just had to be connected. And there was just such a disconnect the last couple of years. So I would say, I mean, obviously, I would put the D-line maybe, just because we just haven't had the sacks. But I think if you look last year, was it 3 interceptions?
I think so. I think we only had like 7 total turnovers as a defense, somewhere around there.
Which once again, you got to have some pressure. But just being able to make plays on the football, I think will be key. So I would say D-line first, but second, but both. I mean, both those have to improve for Florida to make strides as a defense. And I'm not just talking about turnovers. If you just get teams off the field, and we've talked about it, I mean, Florida's going to win some football games.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 1,000%. I say it on this show every day. If the defense can play average or just a little bit better than average, they'll win more games. Megan Beggin on here, YouTube, says, remember when a certain QB said that when we get new facilities, we would dominate in recruiting? Here we sit at 62nd in the nation. We are 0-8 with our O-line targets this year. Again, I will go back and tell you this. The facility we're in now is already outdated because it took us way too long to build a facility. The bottom line is when it comes to football, okay, we did not have a facility. We were I think we were the last team in the SEC to have a facility. All right.
Unless
we were already behind.
Vanderbilt.
Well, now I don't even count Vanderbilt. But other than Vanderbilt, we were the last. Mm-hmm. And we had lost for several years. And then NIL hit. You just moved into look, it was a bad situation. We should have built a football standalone facility back about 2010, and we would not have been in that problem. And like I told you, the facility that they moved into last year, or was it 2 years ago? I can't remember, is already outdated. Other schools in the SEC have already added on or rebuilt their facilities from 10 years ago. So, and again, you got to win. So, and again, I don't give a crap about where we are in recruiting right now. All I care about is winning games this year. Dan says facilities were garbage for years, one of the worst in the SEC. I can't tell you how bad it is or was. Facility we got now is great, but it still does not compare to Alabama, Georgia, Texas, LSU, A&M, Texas. We're still far behind the times, people. Way behind the times.
Well, Shane, you and I were in College Station a couple of years ago together, and I mean, even that place. I mean, we saw the cranes were already ready to roll to improve on the facilities. The moment they got done playing LSU that next week, I mean, they were ready to roll. I mean, everybody's always improving, and this was the same time that they had opened the new facility of Florida, and what Texas A&M had presently was better. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's you bring that up because I remember us talking about that, and I talked to a buddy of mine who is close to the A&M program, and what's crazy is a lot of times it's going to take 2 years to build this facility. No, they tore the facility down, as you said, the last home game, and they moved into the new facility before training camp.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
And put new luxury boxes in. Took 18,000 seats out and put new luxury boxes in.
Yeah. Russell says on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mellon Law. Excuse me, this is YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing. Haha. Here, I thought yesterday was a recruiting win for us, but maybe not according to some of these messages. Like I told you, majority of the people that go on chat boards, listen to podcasts, all they want to do is be negative. They don't want to talk about anything that's positive. Be happy. Vernell Brown III is a very good football player. And as I said, I agree 100% with what you said. If Ohio State is looking at you as a wide receiver, you're pretty damn good.
Absolutely.
And he chose us over Ohio State. So,
and Shane,
Megan says the brand new facility is outdated. Come on, man. Look, I've been to all of them. I've been preaching about facilities since 2008. It took us way too long to get one. We're very fortunate to have one, but I'm telling you, I've walked my ass into all these facilities, and I'm telling you facts.
Right. Well, and here's another point for Beg and Megan is the fact that keep in mind that the teams are not built with high school athletes anymore. The changing landscape has made the transfer portal far more relevant than people ever thought it would. And those are the things that, yes, we need the high school recruits, but going 0 for 8 on, O-line recruits that are 17, 18-year-old, still got a little baby fat. Billy Napier is going to go out, and he has on the offensive line and gotten some men. This is a man's game, and now you can plug and play on a consistent level. So, I think that those people, those recruitniks that love to get into high school recruiting and follow that thing, it's going to be a thing of the past. And slowly but surely, high school recruiting, in my opinion, is going to become less and less more important as this thing continues. It just really is. So I guess my thing is I would temper our high school recruiting ranking and really look at those rankings that come out once transfer portal people are added and things like that. And to Billy's credit, he's done very well with that. Really.
Yeah. According to Pro Football Focus, which they do a lot of research, they watch a lot of tape. Mm-hmm. Whether you agree with them or disagree, they said that they think the Gators have a top 10 offensive line going into this year. Sutter Pro Painters of Gainesville is the area's leader in painting excellence and proud partner of the Florida Gators, offering professional painting service for homes and businesses, plus cabinet refinishing and carpentry repairs. Visit SutterPro.com for a free estimate. Got Loren Meadows here on the Titan Tomorrow Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. John says on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, Russell, it's only a verbal commitment. Keeping him and being successful this year go hand in hand. I agree. But my point of today is if he had verbally committed anywhere else, all hell would be raising on this show.
Yeah. Exactly. That you're right. And I agree. And my thing, like I said, is more not. Yes, I agree with we're not getting him would have been big, but the fact that, like I said, other programs have all these legacy players and have done very well with these legacy players. Shane, you see the names and things like that, and you recognize the name, and Dad played there, and this, that, and the other. And Florida just has struck out with some of those people. Miles Graham was just as huge. And if they continue to do that, these guys are going to have kids that can go. And we need to get them. And I'm saying at other places, like I said, if kids, parents, and I know this from being in Ohio, Dad played at Ohio State, 99% of the time, the son goes to Ohio State. Yeah. And that's the way they roll.
Michael says there's no negativity in saying that now we have to hold on to these recruits who've committed. That will take winning. That's what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is if they're 99% of the people love to be negative, and I talk about being positive because you being negative does no good. And I want to bring up, we're going to talk about Mike Holloway. He had a track event called the Mike Holloway Invitational. I saw an interview with him the other day. It was on Twitter, and he was talking about all the internet coaches. He said the hardest thing that he has as a coach in college is keeping his kids from listening to all the negative noise on Twitter. And you're talking about a guy who's won 1,000 national championships. He was saying that one of his star sprinters brought him a video of a guy critiquing whoever the track kid was, his start, that his coaches were not teaching him correctly. This is somebody on the internet questioning Mouse Holloway. So anyway, tell us what you know about what went on in Gainesville at this track meet.
Well, it was basically a tune-up, and these were held, all over the country. Basically, this is the final weekend for basically where you would want to run. Obviously, you wouldn't want to run this week with the Olympics starting on Friday. So just a tune-up for, not just Florida athletes, but a lot of people that train in and around the area. I know there's a group that trains down at Disney, so some of them came up and things like that. And it was basically, you had everybody from Anna Hall, which is, who is slowly becoming a household name, Jasmine Moore, Malcolm Clemens, Grace Stark, all those athletes that, they have that Diamond League circuit that's overseas. They're running in Monaco, Paris, London, where, some of those people didn't go over there. So kind of a last tune-up. So for instance, Anna Hall competes in the heptathlon, which is 7 events. She did 2 of the 7, just to kind of tune up really the things she may need to work on. So she did the long jump, and then she did the 200 meters, which just, those are 2 of her better events in the heptathlon, but just something to fine tune. Grace Stark, who's coming off 2 leg surgeries, kind of rounding in the form. That's probably why she didn't go overseas. Plus, I'm not sure if she's going to go pro, and that's for the people that go pro, but just to get a tune up. Malcolm Clemens, same thing, so just a last second tune-up. What was cool is there was a sprinter, I can't remember his name. It was kind of nice. He ran the 100 meters from Liberia, and he broke the Liberian national record, ran 991. I did see that. I can't pronounce his name, and I wouldn't do it service. And then what was nice, and you speak about Mouse Holloway and what makes Mouse, is you had Christian Taylor, who is a former Florida jumper, kind of calling it quits, it was kind of his last hurrah, and they gave him a plaque, and, he and Holloway had a real nice moment, and it was nice for him to finish his career basically where it started. So I think they dealt with some weather, but they were able to get it in. It's just a last tune-up. I talked to Anna Hall and Claire Bryant on Thursday. Claire just missed making the Olympic team, but they're going to continue to jump and things like that. So she competed, but I think Anna Hall leaves Wednesday to fly over to Paris, obviously, for the opening ceremonies. And so, it was just a last minute tune up. Anna Hall's father was there with her, and just, last time for people at home to maybe see them before they go over to Paris. So nice.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Pretty cool for sure. Live a healthier lifestyle with our bold flavor smoothies, our amazing food, tropical smoothie. When you eat better, you feel better. Loren, we got a question here from Tram on Facebook Live, brought to you by Mel Law, along the lines of the legacy. What have you heard about Ben Hanks Jr.?
Just same thing, kind of in the mix. It's not a fluid situation. You never know, but I mean, Florida's right there, and once again, same thing. I mean, it's a get. I mean, from what I understand, Hanks is top level player up front, and somebody that, we got to get those kids. I mean, those are kids that are going to develop. They're going to get better. And I mean, Hanks is in the running. I mean, I don't follow, I'm kind of like you, Shane. I don't get bent out of shape over 17, 18-year-old kids. But like I said, when you talk about recruiting and you talk about the level of talent that's available, you have to get those legacy people. You got to keep that talent, quote unquote, in-house. And Hanks, once again, to go along with Graham and Brown, would be another legacy get that I think Florida has to continue. I mean, you were here, you played with the Jacksons, and and it was kind of it was a no-brainer. I mean, Terry and Willie, I don't even think it was a question. We're going to Florida, but that's kind of gone away at Florida in the past few years, and I don't know why, but like I said, getting Graham, getting Brown, possibly getting Hanks, will lead to, as more former Florida Gators kids come of age, that they, not just in football, but in every sport.
Yep. Kevin says on the Titan MR text, I'm convinced that some people pose as Gator fans just to stir the pot. It's stupid how angry people get over something that is fun as football. Agree. Megan again says, it's very telling when people realistic and having standards is seen as being negative. I can hear the frustration in QB's voice, but he knows I'm right. I disagree with you 1000%. When I sit here and tell you that I have walked into about this would have been in 2015, I went into every ACC and SEC facility, 2015, the entire summer, took a tour with my kid.
Mhm.
We didn't even have anything.
Right.
Okay. We didn't have one.
Mhm.
Okay. We get ours in 2020 or 2021. I don't know when it opened up, 2022.
Right.
Okay. Since then, I was doing radio and I've been back in those facilities that are newer.
Right.
So I'm not going to sit here and argue with you. Do I wish we were winning football games? Absolutely. But we went through a period of not having a facility hurt our recruiting, regardless of who the coach was.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
Will Muschamp, I know for a fact, did everything he possibly could to try to convince Jeremy Foley and them to build a football facility where lacrosse is and put lacrosse over here because you had more land there because you could continue building and adding on to that facility because you're going to have to do it.
Right.
It got turned down.
And now you're landlocked
You're landlocked.
with a student health facility, which whatever.
Which I don't know why they built that there either.
Yeah, I don't either. But to kind of be legal to point even more, I lived in Durham, North Carolina in the mid 90s, and I can say that North Carolina in the 90s rebuilt their facilities at Kenan Stadium. And that facility in the 90s is as nicer now than the Hebner Center today when they built it in the 90s. And they just added on it, but they've built even more since then. And Duke, who has improved their facilities, you've seen, it is just as nice as the Hebner Center today. And Duke's facility was built prior to the Hebner Center. So teams where football is not necessarily even deemed as important as other sports have facilities as nice as the Hebner Center.
Yeah, Dan says, I was shocked when I left the state of Florida and went to these other SEC schools. UF was winning. The other teams were not winning, but they were building facilities. Now it's come back to home Florida because we had the ego that we were winning without a facility.
Right.
That's exactly what it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very true. We were winning championships with no facility.
Right.
While we were doing that, the other schools were looking into the future and they were building stuff, and it took us too long to build one, and we're catching up.
Well, those
are the facts.
They weren't doing what the Gators were doing. So they said, well, we got to get the glitz and glamour going because we don't have the Jimmys and Joes.
Yep. So anyway, everybody can have their own thoughts, and I appreciate you with your thoughts. But if you have been in those facilities at those other schools and you want to argue with me, that's perfectly fine. But if you've never stepped foot in there and you are looking at if you're talking about from the 1990s to the 2008s, that era, when we didn't have a facility, but other teams were building facilities, but we were winning. It's just, I just don't understand how people can't understand that. Anyway, I'm on another tangent here. Chris says, picture this next year, Lagway possibly throwing to Eugene, Vernell, Hawkins, Abrams, Mizell, and Gene. A lot of talent. Well, hell, we got those guys this year. Let's throw to them, except we don't have Vernell's kid, but we got Hawkins, we got Abrams, we got Mizell, and we got Gene.
Oh, yeah.
Let's let them go play.
Yeah. Andy Gene's a man. He looks like like I said, I was looking across the field and they were doing their little injury workout. And I'm like, who's that kid? Who's that linebacker out there running like that? And it was Andy Gene. He's put together.
All right. So this is the last text and we'll get you out of here. I don't know who it's from. It says, what kind of return has Texas A&M received on all the money they have invested in facilities? They are still a mid team. That is true, but they have brought in a lot of good players. Absolutely. That's a fact. Mm-hmm. Now, we're not just talking about football here. I'm talking about they probably have the best facilities across the board in the Southeastern Conference of all the schools in the conference of every sport, I would say.
Yeah, from what I've seen, I mean, they could hold the Olympics at their track facility. I mean, you saw us on the other side of campus, but I mean, what's nice about A&M is, you know, everything's kind of right there. You go from track to softball to baseball, which all three are immaculate. And yeah, I mean, you know, I came back from College Station just like, wow. And, you know, we talk about, you know, Florida and their Olympians and things like that. Well, Texas A&M kind of has that same, you know, kind of they're the everything school and things like that. And they've been, you know, done really well in a lot of different sports. Basketball for them has improved and with Buzz Williams and some of those guys. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's just a big picture of just really, you know, and Florida is not just behind in football facilities. I mean, it's a lot of other sports too. And like you said, Texas A&M, you know, outside, I haven't been to, we'll go to Austin this fall, but I mean, outside of, I mean, Texas A&M is some of the nicest. I mean, it was incredible. I was blown away by their facilities when we were there years ago. I mean,
some of our people just don't understand. We don't have the money some of these other schools do, but it is what it is. We win in a lot of sports, but we do not have the facilities that we need, and we're getting there. So anyway, Loren, good stuff as always. Appreciate your time, my friend. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Hope everybody enjoyed today's program. Don't forget, tomorrow we'll have Ron Coleman, first Black athlete to ever attend the University of Florida. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning. Have a great day, folks. Take care.